Habit 1. The crushing weight of bottled emotions, Alan's story. The first habit, the one that often masquerades as strength, begins not with a bang, but with a profound, echoing silence. Let me tell you about Alan. Alan, 81, stood by the window, the silence in his home since Martha passed as heavy as the unshed tears burning his eyes. "I'm fine." He'd clipped at his daughter, Sarah, earlier, the lie tasting like ash. His stoic appearance was a carefully constructed dam against a flood of grief, but his trembling hands betrayed the immense pressure building within. He clutched a small, antique silver locket, Martha's, its clasp stiff, a mirror to his own resistance. He hadn't opened it since she died, a small, potent symbol of his contained sorrow. Could a man be too strong for his own good? Days blurred into weeks. The bottling of emotions began to exact its toll. Alan developed debilitating headaches, a constant throb that even strong painkillers couldn't quell. He pushed away Sarah's gentle attempts to talk, to draw out his pain. "Men of my generation, we just get on with it," he'd mutter to himself, his gaze fixed on the unyielding locket. Insomnia became his nightly companion, the darkness amplifying his unspoken grief. Then came the sharp stomach pains, a gnawing discomfort that stole his appetite and his already dwindling energy. One morning, Sarah found him pale and doubled over, a gasp of pain escaping his lips. "Dad, this isn't strength," she pleaded, her voice thick with worry. "It's hurting you. It's creating this chronic stress, this inflammation that's making you sick." She mentioned a small grief support group at the local community center, a place for healing. Alan initially scoffed. Talking to strangers? What good will that do? The idea of emotional suppression being a vulnerability, not a virtue, was foreign to him. Sarah, desperate, saw the locket in his hand. She placed her own hand gently over his, near the cold silver. "Please, Dad, for Martha, for me." The mention of his beloved Martha, the woman whose memory he was trying to honor with this stoic silence, made him pause. A flicker of something unreadable, pain, exhaustion, a tiny crack in the dam, appeared in his eyes. He finally agreed. At the group, Alan sat rigid, a fortress of solitude. Then, an older woman, her voice soft but steady, shared a story of loss that mirrored his own. Hesitantly, almost inaudibly at first, Alan began to speak of Martha. He spoke of their 50 years together, of her laugh, of the emptiness she'd left behind. A single tear traced a path down his weathered cheek, then another. He later told Sarah, his voice raspy but lighter, "I didn't realize how much I was holding in until I heard myself say it out loud." He still hadn't opened the locket, but a crucial first step towards healing had been taken. This emotional suppression he'd endured had tangible effects. It's known to trigger chronic stress responses, leading to elevated blood pressure, widespread inflammation, and a weakened immune system. The damage is slow, insidious, often unnoticed until something breaks. Emotional honesty isn't an indulgence. It's vital for mental health and physical well-being. What can you do if you recognize this pattern in yourself? Start by noticing. When something upsets you, don't push it down. Try writing it down or speak to someone you trust. It doesn't require turning your life into a therapy session, but creating space to be human, even for just 10 minutes of reflection a day, can ease that internal pressure. Over time, that simple act can mean more energy, better health, and yes, even a longer life. Alan took his first step towards healing by breaking his silence. But what happens when the silence isn't from grief, but from a life that has slowly, almost imperceptibly, emptied of meaningful connection? For Marie, 77, the quiet in her neat suburban home felt different, yet just as corrosive. Habit 2. The slow fade of isolation, Marie's unseen loneliness. Alan took his first step towards healing by breaking his silence. But what happens when the silence isn't from grief, but from a life that has slowly, almost imperceptibly, emptied of meaningful connection? For Marie, 77, the quiet in her neat suburban home felt different, yet just as corrosive. Marie waved cheerily to her neighbor, the smile fixed until her front door clicked shut. Inside, the silence rushed back in, a familiar, unwelcome guest. "No one really knows what my days are like," she'd once confessed to her reflection, a whisper in the empty house. Her home was meticulously kept, every cushion plumped, every surface gleaming, a stark contrast to the echoing emptiness within her. Though she had family nearby, their conversations often skimmed the surface, polite exchanges that never quite touched the core of her being. She felt like a background character in their busy lives. Days would often find Marie scrolling through photos on her phone, her grandchildren, vibrant and engaged in their own worlds. On her hall table, an unopened letter lay gathering dust. It was from an old college friend, someone with whom she'd once shared dreams and laughter, now a ghost from a more connected past. Why hadn't she opened it? Marie told herself she didn't want to be a bother, a familiar refrain that kept her social circle small and her interactions superficial. So her days passed, marked by the flickering companionship of TV shopping channels and the brief, polite nods exchanged at the grocery store. Is this a familiar feeling for anyone? That slow fade into invisibility? She felt increasingly unseen, unheard. During a routine checkup, her doctor noted slightly elevated blood pressure, casually attributing it to age. A persistent fatigue also clung to her, a weariness that sleep didn't seem to cure. This wasn't just in Marie's head. Chronic loneliness, this profound social isolation, isn't merely unpleasant. It's toxic. Its health impacts are comparable by some to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, weakening the immune system, increasing inflammation, and making individuals more vulnerable to everything from dementia to heart disease. One afternoon, feeling particularly adrift, a small flyer at the local library caught Marie's eye. It called for volunteers for the Children's Story Hour. The thought sent a jolt through her, a terrifying, yet strangely exciting prospect. What if I make a fool of myself? She worried. But the image of children's expectant faces, the thought of shared stories, stirred something deep within her. Hesitantly, she attended. A little girl with bright pigtails, clutching a well-loved picture book, shyly asked Marie to read to her. As Marie's voice filled the quiet corner of the library, the little girl snuggled closer. For the first time in what felt like years, Marie felt a genuine warmth, a sense of purpose, a real human connection. It was astonishing. Her energy lifted, her sleep improved. She even found herself picking up that unopened letter from her friend. A new curiosity sparked. Even one meaningful connection, however small it may seem, can be powerful medicine for the soul and body. If your circle has shrunk, know that it's never too late to rebuild. Reach out, join something, even if it feels awkward at first. What have you got to lose compared to what you might gain? Marie found solace in connection, a vital antidote to the quiet erosion of loneliness. But even with a full heart, the body needs its own specific rhythm of rest and repair, a rhythm Clifford, 74, had been flagrantly ignoring for years, believing he could cheat time itself. Habit 3. The midnight gamble Clifford's war against sleep. Marie found solace in connection, a vital antidote to the quiet erosion of loneliness. But even with a full heart, the body needs its own specific rhythm of rest and repair, a rhythm Clifford, 74, had been flagrantly ignoring for years, believing he could cheat time itself. Clifford, 74, squinted at his glowing tablet screen, the clock glaring 1:37 a.m. Sleep is for the weak, he'd often joke to his son, Mark, who'd call worried. Tonight, like most nights, Clifford was chasing news articles and online card games, a restless energy thrumming beneath his skin. His cluttered nightstand, a testament to his nocturnal habits, was piled high with old newspapers and half-empty coffee mugs. He was, by his own admission, a proud night owl. But was this defiance of the natural sleep cycle a strength, or a slow-acting poison? Mark frequently voiced his concern. "Dad, you sound exhausted," he'd say during their calls. Clifford would invariably dismiss it. "I'm a night owl, always have been. Function just fine." But the reality was different. His energy plummeted during the day. He found himself catching colds more frequently than ever before. his immune system seemingly always on the defensive. He'd misplace things, his keys, his glasses, the book he was just reading. During a family dinner, a rare occasion he felt up to attending, he snapped irritably at his granddaughter over a trivial matter, then looked immediately regretful, a confused frown clouding his face. This isn't just about feeling tired. Consistently staying up late wages war on your body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm that dictates when to rest, repair, and recover. When that rhythm is disrupted, everything from your immune system and metabolism to your memory and mood begins to slip. Sleep isn't just rest. It's a period of vital restoration, and without enough of it, especially that deep, early night sleep, the body breaks down faster than it should. The climax of Clifford's war against sleep came on a hot afternoon. He was trying to mow his lawn, a task he usually managed with ease, when he suddenly collapsed. In the ER, a stern-faced doctor delivered the sobering news. Heart palpitations and dangerously high blood pressure, directly linked to chronic sleep deprivation. "Mr. Henderson," the doctor said, his voice leaving no room for argument, "you're not just tired, your body is in distress. This night owl routine is a gamble you're losing." The word losing echoed in Clifford's mind, a stark contrast to the card games he so often won in the dead of night. Shaken and finally confronted with the undeniable consequences of his actions, Clifford agreed to try and change. Mark helped him establish a new routine. Dimming lights in the evening, no screens an hour before bed. The first few nights were hard. He paced, restless. But slowly, incrementally, he started sleeping earlier. He began to notice small but significant changes. More energy during the day, clearer thoughts, a lifting of the ever-present brain fog. He even apologized to his granddaughter, a genuine smile returning to his face. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. If this sounds like you, try moving your bedtime back by just 15 minutes. Turn off those screens. Use softer lighting. Your body wants to sleep and heal. Will you let it? Clifford's health scare forced him to respect his body's need for sleep. But what if the danger isn't about neglecting a daily need, but neglecting the very system designed to detect threats early? Leonard, 76, prided himself on his independence, an independence that led him to make a perilous assumption about his health. Habit 4. The "I feel fine" fallacy. Leonard's gamble with checkups. Clifford's health scare forced him to respect his body's need for sleep. But what if the danger isn't about neglecting a daily need, but neglecting the very system designed to detect threats early? Leonard, 76, prided himself on his independence, an independence that led him to make a perilous assumption about his health. Hospitals? Only if something's broken. Leonard, 76, boomed, waving dismissively at his daughter, Susan, who was urging him to see a doctor. It had been over a decade. Can you believe that? Over 10 years without a checkup. I've lived this long, haven't I? Must be doing something right. Leonard was a picture of robust activity, fiercely independent, always tinkering in his workshop or walking his beloved beagle, Max. But beneath that vigorous exterior lay a stubborn streak, particularly when it came to doctors. Susan, however, had started noticing subtle changes. Leonard would get breathless more easily on their weekend walks in the park. He began complaining of an unusual, persistent thirst, draining water glasses with uncharacteristic frequency. When she'd gently suggest a doctor's visit, he'd brush it off with a curt, "Just getting older, Susie." But is that always the case? After 60, our bodies can change rapidly, and many serious conditions, like high blood pressure, certain cancers, or diabetes, often develop silently, without obvious early warning signs. Preventative care and early detection are absolutely key. Leonard, however, continued his routine, blissfully unaware and proud of his self-reliance, viewing health screening as an admission of weakness. One sunny afternoon, while out walking Max along their usual route by the river, Leonard suddenly felt dizzy. The world tilted precariously. He stumbled, collapsing by a park bench as Max began barking frantically, sensing his owner's distress. A passerby, alerted by the dog's persistent cries, rushed over and called an ambulance. The next few hours were a blur for Susan. In the stark white environment of the hospital, a grim-faced doctor delivered the shocking news. Leonard had undiagnosed, advanced type 2 diabetes and dangerously unstable blood pressure. His undiagnosed illness had progressed significantly. If he'd come in sooner, the doctor began, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. The experience left Leonard profoundly shaken and filled with remorse. "This wouldn't have scared my family half to death if I'd just gone," he whispered to Susan later, his voice hoarse with regret. His recovery was significantly harder, the delay in diagnosis complicating his treatment. He now faced a strict regimen of medication, dietary changes, and lifestyle adjustments. A newfound humility in his eyes, Leonard finally agreed to regular checkups. It's a stark reminder, isn't it? Skipping checkups because you feel fine is a gamble. Those appointments aren't just about catching disease. They offer peace of mind and are, fundamentally, an act of self-respect and love for those who depend on you. Don't wait until something feels wrong. Make that appointment. Ask the questions. Get the scan. Your future self will thank you. Leonard learned the hard way that feeling fine isn't a guarantee of good health. His crisis was a sudden event, but some habits erode vitality far more slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the constant stillness that had become Glenn's unwelcome companion. Habit 5. The Stillness Trap, Glenn's Recliner Betrayal. Leonard learned the hard way that feeling fine isn't a guarantee of good health. His crisis was a sudden event, but some habits erode vitality far more slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the constant stillness that had become Glenn's unwelcome companion. Glenn, 79, settled into his plush recliner, the TV remote already in hand. His daily walk around the block was done, his exercise for the day. A triumph, he thought. The rest of the day is for resting, he'd tell his visiting nurse, Anya, with a satisfied smile. But Anya, with her keen eyes, worried about the hours he spent virtually motionless, a prisoner in his comfortable chair. That chair, a symbol of relaxation, was it actually a betrayal? Anya would gently explain that even with a daily walk, prolonged sitting is detrimental. It's about what your body's doing the other 23 hours, Glenn, she'd say, pointing out how a sedentary lifestyle slows circulation, drops metabolism, and increases the risk of blood clots, diabetes, and heart disease. But Glenn loved his recliner, his news programs, his afternoon solitaire. Why trade that comfort for unnecessary movement? Soon, though, the consequences of sitting too long began to surface. He started noticing his ankles swelling by evening, a puffiness that hadn't been there before. His blood sugar readings, which Anya diligently tracked, were creeping up. He felt increasingly sluggish, a heavy lethargy that even his morning walk couldn't shake. One afternoon, trying to stand up after a particularly long TV session, a sharp pain shot through his knee, making him hiss in discomfort. This wasn't just aging. This felt different. The real wake-up call, the moment the illusion of harmless rest shattered, came unexpectedly. Glenn was dozing in his recliner, the afternoon sun warming his face, when he jerked awake with a frightening Charlie horse in his calf. The pain was so intense, so vice-like, it left him breathless and terrified. Anya, arriving for her scheduled visit, found him pale, shaken, and clutching his leg. "Glenn," she said firmly, her voice cutting through his fear. "This chair, this stillness, it's not your friend. It's contributing to these problems. We need to make a change, a small one, today. Are you ready for that?" Finally scared enough to listen, Glenn agreed to try. He didn't need to run marathons, Anya assured him. Just simple, frequent movement. She suggested standing up every hour during TV commercials, marching in place while the kettle boiled, doing a few gentle stretches at the sink. He even put a bright yellow sticky note on his TV. Move felt annoying at first, a disruption to his established routine. But after a week of these small efforts, he noticed his ankles were less swollen. He felt a bit more energetic. He even found himself pacing during phone calls, a newfound restlessness replacing the old inertia. It turns out, an active lifestyle isn't just about that one dedicated exercise session. It's woven into the fabric of the entire day. How much of your day is spent in that stillness trap? Glenn began to break free from the stillness trap, rediscovering the body's need for movement. But movement isn't the only physical process that demands our attention. How we nourish ourselves, specifically the way we eat, became Teresa's quiet battleground, fought in front of a flickering screen.